So yeah, hospitality is our background. So my husband Brent and I have been running businesses in Hamilton for about 20 years. We moved from Auckland in 2007, and up there we were working in various different places in different areas of hospitality. So it's very much our background. So this is just a bit of a glide through our what's got us to where we are now. So yeah, so moving more into circular systems. So we started with one cafe in 2007. We packed up and moved to Hamilton. We didn't know anybody. We knew one person who got us the lease on the site. So initially, like all new businesses, a lot of energy was spent just trying to survive and build a business in a town which we didn't really have any wraparound support and we didn't know people. And it was the days before social media, and we couldn't kind of just ring up a group of mates to come in. So it was quite a lot of steep learning curves, and we worked our butts off. But I think even then we had this really strong kind of sense of wanting to have sustainability underpin decisions. And because we were very hands-on, I think we had one full-timer and a part-timer, and then us two doing everything else. I mean, we had a lot of control over the system, so we could sort of see everything happening, and we worked with chicken farmers and wanted to do free range, and wanted to sort of push the boat out and make sure we had organic milk and things that weren't really the norm even back then. So I guess that's sort of where it started. And then we moved to Hayes Common in 2016, and our thinking just sort of started to shift, where we weren't just asking ourselves around how do we build a successful cafe, but more and more around what kind of business do we want to be. And we worked a lot with just trying to access growers, looking at our waste, thinking about purchasing, and then just sort of pushing our values a little bit stronger, and rather than just leaning into what was sort of status quo in the industry. Hayes Common, if you're not familiar, is a neighbourhood eatery in a kind of heritage area in Hamilton. So we're quite lucky with being, having this beautiful site and a really great local community who really supported us from the get-go. So yeah, it was I think the locations really helped us with sort of pushing some of these things. We've had a few different businesses over the years. So we had the River Kitchen to start with, and then Hayes Common, we opened a food truck called Whiz Bang Bao right before COVID, which was terrible timing. And so that unfortunately didn't last very long. Events the market dried up. So then we pivoted and went to another place called Wee Eatery for 3 years that we ran alongside Hayes Common. And that was in a corporate area or corporate business park. And I think each business sort of taught us something different. And the one thing that I think the reason we ended up selling Weave and just focusing back on one business was within a business park, we didn't have as much control over the environment or the direction of our business. And we started realizing that that was really fundamental to us. So it was a little bit harder to kind of get the idea of composting on site across the line there. They weren't opposed, but it was just going to be a little bit trickier. So we decided to just focus our attention on Hayes Common and then look at what else we could be doing. So Brent and I met working together in kitchens. We're chefs by trade, I guess, and then but we spent a lot of years just out front of our businesses. Post-COVID, we found ourselves back in the kitchen for various reasons, and I think we'd realized that we'd done a lot of work in the front of house arena and trying to reduce waste, and the back of house was really dismal, which is fairly normal in hospitality, I guess. But we just started looking at all the waste and looking at what was ending up in landfill, and we knew that we needed to try and do something better. So there wasn't a lot on offer in the Waikato at the time. There's a few options now, but so we started sort of questioning what we were doing, and just and why we were throwing away this food that we'd paid a lot for. Prices were rising, our costs were going through the roof, and we started really looking at what we could control. And one of the biggest things within our grasp was our waste. It's an increasing cost, and one that I think a lot of businesses don't realize just how much it's increasing. But yeah, if the waste to landfill costs are going up and they're only going to continue going up. So we also started questioning around how food waste is costed into menus, and it's kind of expected. And just I guess I sit from Waikato Regional President hat as well for hospitality in our area, and just thinking about how we've kind of got ourselves into this situation where we've kind of just blinkered about how much food waste is actually costing businesses, and we need to sort of address that. So we started making one simple change in our business. Um, in February last year, we we decided we were going to compost all our own food scraps. And we did some research, not a huge amount to be fair. We did enough to know that we wanted it to be a system, it needed to be a system that was really robust, that was very simple, and that was rodent proof and didn't let off a whole lot of smells, etc. And we got put in touch with the great team at Carbon Cycle. Shout out to Tim and Richard, and just felt like that was the way for us to go if we were going to trial anything. Ticked lots of boxes, and so we ended up getting funding for our compost bins through Hamilton City Council, and we went into putting compost bins into all of our major sections of the restaurant. And pretty much immediately, it just became the norm for our team. What surprised us wasn't really the compost, although I still get a real kick out of seeing how compost or how food scraps are transformed so quickly into compost. But it was the sort of other intangible things that happen around it. So customers were asking questions. We're obviously being quite obvious about how we were promoting it within our business. Neighbouring business were asking us questions. We started chatting to local growers about what we we're doing and getting more involved with them. And composters that we met were really generous with their knowledge. And then also our team felt really proud of what we were doing. And we started seeing the chefs sort of taking more notice of what they were throwing out. Our food waste dropped. And then I guess food waste became a bit of a creative source of inspiration, which led us to thinking about a bigger opportunity. So, like, how can we make this work? Why is it so hard to get things like this off the ground? We knew there was a lot of great work being done in sort of small community environments, but I guess with having been involved in the industry and being part of the Restaurant Association, I know that the hospitality sector is kind of quite a big hurdle. And so we started questioning, how do we get hospitality on board and how do we connect back to the community? So then, we sort of realized it was not just about compost. It wasn't really ever just about compost, but it was about trying to, have a more circular system that actually worked and to prove it. So we started Common Compost as a pilot. We originally were going to look at something a little larger, and it just didn't feel like it sat right for us. We wanted to do something that was small and circular and community led. We're not really interested in solving, having a large scale composting hub that was gonna, need massive amounts of infrastructure. Our whole system revolved around having a collection of businesses, one compost hub and one farmer. And initially we just started with us, so we've diverted 6.5 tons of food waste from landfill in 18 months, and so that's 100% of our food waste has now been composted. So we started looking at the system from a hospitality perspective and what hospitality would need for it to work. And we just replaced what we know works in terms of rubbish collection for a real ease of transfer of information to kitchens around giving them bins, giving them the setup, having a weekly collection. One of the real key things for us and some work that we've done and being involved in kai keepers and other a food waste pilot run through Restaurant Association, was just how important data was. So we've been collecting all of our data right from the get-go, and we knew that we needed to be able to share that with anyone who wanted to get on board, because as much as we'd like to think people are going to do this for all the right reasons, we know for hospitality businesses that they need to see that it's going to impact their bottom line, and they want to know that they've got something really tangible that they can share with their consumers as well. So we've created a really basic app as part of the system where we can log collections, and it calculates a measurement of so it calculates your weight of your food waste and then converts it to a sort of CO2 emissions. And
What?
Is it a Bailey film there?
No.
Can't follow it.
and then we have kind of come up with some basic staff training, and then we've talked about like really engaging those people in the pilot and sharing stories, and obviously giving them a lot of really great promotion. So we're about to kick off with the pilot. So today we installed the compost bin on Tom Tip Farm that we're going to be using for the additional businesses. We've got our one on site as well. We've got 6 businesses, 1 compost hub, 1 local grower, and sort of 6 months to just prove that it can work. And the idea is that a lot of our theory is just around proving that something like this can work. And it doesn't have to be this system, but it's more around trying to get people engaged from a hospitality point of view, who can then coordinate with whoever's doing great work within their communities. I guess why hospitality is just that there's no real benchmark for what sustainable looks like in hospitality. So one of our kind of greater goals is of kind of mapping out what a sustainable hospitality framework looks like, because the moment we don't actually know what the problem is, and there's a lot of great solutions out there, but I think the industry itself doesn't really understand the problem, so it makes it really hard for those solutions to survive. We've seen friends of ours like Nada and Again and Foodprint and things really struggle, and that's like we really need the hospitality sector to be engaged more, so that's a big driver for us. Yeah, and hospitality has influence, so we support a massive ecosystem, and we can help showcase what's available. We're part of a really diverse community, so we've got broad reach. We can pivot really fast. I think if anything hospitality operators can do is change things fast if they need to. We're not having to go through a lot of bureaucracy and things, so we can actually create changes really quickly. And I think hospitality businesses are quite responsible for shaping trends and inspiring others, and being a bit of a voice more and more in communities. So yeah, I think we didn't just fall in love with compost, but of what it's made possible for us, I guess. And so looking forward to sort of seeing how this pilot plays out. We've got some great businesses on board, and yeah, happy to kind of talk a little bit more about how that's going to work. I'm sure there's a few questions.